It's a Terry Sullivan Show. Today's guest, Dr. Helen Sullivan. The real boss of the show. It's Terry Sullivan's mom.
That's accurate.
You know it's right.
I got to be on my best behavior today.
Oh, good luck with that.
I got my mama on the show, so I got to watch what I say, watch what I do.
You actually might have to be nice to me.
Well, I was just fixing to say that. I may even have to be nice to you, too, so I don't get a lecture later on. You good? Oh, well, you're kind of being nicer, too.
Well, this is exciting for me.
I even noticed that Trey was being on his best behavior. He called her ma'am, and...
We're not stupid.
You want to get paid, don't you?
Well, I've heard the things you said. I mean...
Hey, give a plug for Heart Association over there.
Okay, yes. This month we are actually asking for those. I have a loved one that passed away a few weeks ago and from a heart attack, and we just ask that you make donations to the American Heart Association. Any donations that you make to the Heart Association is being used very wisely. It helped my mother-in-law live an extra 13 years, healthy and happy, not suffering.
Yeah, it's a great.
She lived her life, and that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great cause.
Yes,
we want
absolutely.
People, yeah, and you can testify to that because you lived it.
I did. I
mean, you're
grateful that we had her for those 13 years.
Yeah, your mother-in-law actually lived with you and Paula.
She did, and you know we were best of friends, and we gave each other a lot of grief a lot of times. But I told my wife the night before, I said, you know, if she'd have known that I was going to actually speak at her funeral,
yeah,
she would have been horrified.
She'd have been a lot nicer, wouldn't she?
She probably would. She'd have been a lot nicer.
Actually, she probably knew it and didn't care.
Right.
But anyway, it's a worthy cause. We want people to reach out and support organizations that help the quality of life.
Absolutely.
Live longer, yeah. Okay. So good to have my mom. Mom?
Yes.
It's good to have you today.
Thank you, son. I'm honored.
Yeah, I've been wanting to do this for some time, and this is probably more for me than anybody else, but it's going to be very interesting. I have questions for you that I've never asked before, but I need to know some stuff.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. So my mom, Trey, where are you? So my mother's the only guest I've had that wrote me up all the questions she wants to be asked.
Wow, outline for him.
She sent me a list late last night in an email, and of course I asked her to do it really, but it's pretty detailed. So my mother was in education, was a teacher for 30, a lot of years.
45.
45 years, yeah. And so she still thinks that way, right? Y'all be nice to my mother. Don't treat her like you treat normal people. You look so pretty today.
Thank you.
You asked me, you said, what do I wear? I said, just wear your church clothes, and you did. Now I feel underdressed.
I noticed.
Are you embarrassed by me?
No.
People would like to hear, was I a bad kid growing up?
No, son. You were a very good kid growing up.
My sister, Debbie, was the bad kid.
Well, Debbie's not here to defend herself, so...
I know. Yeah.
No, you guys were great kids, really.
Well, we had a great childhood.
You did.
Great dad and great mom, and raised us in church. And
Right.
And you know, when I talk about my childhood to other people, I can only remember the greatness of it, you know, because we really had a good life and great kitchen. You always cooked great meals. And when I was growing up, what was the best meal that you liked to cook?
I always liked to cook fried chicken, which was your favorite.
It still is today.
It is.
We had it this week at,
That's right.
at Danny's birthday party.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
When you were growing up, I just cooked the regular meals, chicken fried steak, pot roast.
Yeah. Now, pot roast, we had that usually on Sundays.
Sunday.
Walk me through that process, because back then you didn't have crock pots, or you had to cook it in the oven, right?
Well, I had to cook it in the oven, but we did have crock pots later on in your life. But,
Yeah.
well, first of all, you brown the roast, and then you put it in the roaster pan.
Yeah.
And with enough water that it's not going to dry out. You cook it at about 350 degrees, and then you add the potatoes and carrots to it. And
Yeah.
but I always got it cooked before we went to church, and then all I had to do was warm it up a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know why I was thinking this, but I was thinking that there were times when you had to, after Sunday school, you had to go home and do something else to it and then go back to church.
Well, that might have been on one of those days I was running late in the morning and had to do that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But no, most of the time it was cooked before I left.
Yeah. What was Dad's favorite meal that you cooked?
Probably chicken fried steak and pinto beans and mashed potatoes.
Yeah. Of course, he loved, we all loved, but he loved fried bologna and pinto beans and fried potatoes and cornbread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just liked good old basic food.
But we didn't have, when I was growing up, we didn't really have salad. We didn't really do that kind of stuff.
Not too much.
We didn't believe in healthy stuff.
Well, yeah, we ate a lot of vegetables.
We did?
Yeah.
I must have missed out on that. I don't remember all those vegetable stuff. Yeah.
Remember, your dad did not care for green beans until you came along, but he ate them so he could teach you that they were good for you.
It wasn't the green beans for me, it was the green peas that I still hate today. I never did like the green peas. But I didn't like mac and cheese growing up. Later on, I learned to like it later on in life, but I didn't really like it growing up.
Well, you like things now that you did not eat growing up, like turnip greens,
Yes, yeah.
cabbage.
Yes, I love that today. Didn't like it growing up.
Right.
Yeah, stuff like that. Oh, you know what I love? What I love today that I didn't like growing up. In fact, I didn't like it until the last few years. Is Brussels sprouts. I like them. I like them fried. But to this day, what you still cook that's better than anything in the world is the fried chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a lot of people know how to cut up a whole chicken these days.
Right.
Yeah.
It's more difficult than it was in your day. Now they let them get so large, it's like almost cutting up a pig or something. They're so big, but yeah, I cut up my own chickens.
Yeah.
Because you and Debbie always wanted a wishbone.
Oh, we always did that wishbone thing.
And you
whoever got the shorter end, we always do. Whoever got the shortest end won.
Yeah.
And we never won anything, but we won something.
Yeah.
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 Mom, you grew up on a farm in East Texas. We still have that farm down there. And when you grew up, you said to me one time that y'all were poor, but you didn't really know you were poor because everybody else around you was poor, so you were happy.
Right. That's correct, son. I had a great life, great childhood life, and we always had plenty of food because we grew our own food and we butchered our own pigs and livestock, so, and we had a dairy, which we had plenty of milk and butter and all the good stuff.
But back then, Grandma, your mother, she had to make all that from scratch.
Right.
The butter and...
Right, we churned it.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, and also we didn't have the conveniences that we have today. My mother cooked on a wood cook stove, and she didn't have, I remember when we did not have refrigeration at all, and we never had air conditioning.
Yeah.
We didn't have running water at all.
Didn't have a bathroom.
No, we had an outdoor toilet.
Yeah, when I remember when I was a kid, this was way back in the day, but I remember when I was just a small kid that we would have to take baths in a wash tub. And
All
I
of
never
us.
wanted to be the last kid because it was dirty by then.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We drew up that water out of the well early in the afternoon so it would warm by the sun. And then after we got through working in the field all day or whatever our chores were, then we all took a bath in the same water, one at a time. Yeah.
Well, that's something right there. But I remember growing up on the farm, there was always food. I mean, there was, and, you know, I remember Grandma making big breakfasts around 10 o'clock in the morning. After
No. Around 7 o'clock in the morning. We were in the fields by 10 o'clock.
Well, they were milking, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they started milking at what time? About 4 o'clock in the
Oh,
morning?
at 4, yes.
Yeah, okay, all right. But it was a big meal, wasn't it? Yeah,
Homemade biscuits, and always some kind of meat,
yeah.
because as I mentioned earlier, they butchered their own hogs, and they were stored in the smokehouse. They were cured by smoke, and that meat lasted until until chickens came along in the spring,
Yeah.
and then our meat in the summer, and back into the next fall was fried chicken. But whatever meat we raised,
So you raised your own chickens
yes.
to fry. So tell me, how does that process work?
Well, about February or March of the year, my mother would order from catalog 100 baby chicks every year, 100 baby chicks, and they would come to us by mail order. And then, because we did not have a chicken house or anything for baby chicks, my mother would set up an area in the living room where our only heater was for heating the house.
Yeah.
And she would set up an area that she changed out papers or whatever for them to be on during the day. And that's where they stayed during the daytime, and then we would box them up in the box they came in as long as they were small enough. And so we would box them up at night and then start the process all over. And then when they were about 6 weeks old, they were old enough to go outside, to be in a little pen outside. And you won't believe this because they were like pets, but really we were just so excited about them getting big enough that we could kill them and eat them and have fried chicken. You know, that's why they
I'm
were.
not sure if this is politically correct over here, but so you raised the chickens from little chicks
Yeah.
to eat.
Right.
Yeah, that's the way you had to do it back then.
That's why you had to do it. So when they got to the size that Mother thought they were big enough to eat, then we would start killing chickens and have chicken, fried chicken.
Oh, I bet that was good.
Oh, it was good. It was
Yeah.
wonderful.
So she would have to cut their necks off.
Oh, she wrung it. She rang them off with twisted them off, and threw it out there.
Oh Lord! she would
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, twist that neck off.
And then that you know, I remember when I was a kid, that chicken would jump up and down
Oh
without a
yeah,
head.
till it died.
I
It
don't
didn't
even know
bother
if-
us at all because we knew it was going to be fried chicken in a little bit.
I don't even know if we're supposed to be talking about this, but it sure is interesting. So then she would have to pluck it.
Well, she would have to put it in, douse it in scalding water to make the feathers loose enough that she could pluck them.
Yeah.
And then, so once they were plucked and she had all the feathers off of them and everything,
Yeah.
then she would hold them over a burner on the stove and kind of singe them because
Yeah.
chickens have like a fuzzy fuzz underneath those feathers, you know, for new feathers. So she would hold them over a burner to singe them. And then when they were all singed and ready, then she would start cutting them up and then wash them good. And then once she got them washed and ready and cut up and ready, well then she was ready to fry them in shortening. Well, actually it was grease. It was the grease lard
Yeah.
that was cooked from the portions of the fat on the hogs, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, we had all that. We didn't have bought shortening or anything.
Yeah. So you didn't, back when you were a kid, y'all didn't just run down to the store and and get stuff.
I don't remember ever buying any kind of meat at the store except bologna. But no, we didn't run to the store. My early years, the roads were all still mud.
Yeah.
And the roads were muddy, and to go to, well, we didn't even have my dad went to town, to a little town called Emery, which was about 8 miles from where we lived. Well, he went to Emery.
Now, how did he get there?
In a wagon. In a wagon, 8 miles. And to get to the staples, we had to buy sugar and flour, coffee, stuff like that. But we bought very little stuff to eat.
Yeah.
Because Mama cooked. We only got light bread, what we called light bread. We only got loaf bread.
Yeah.
For special occasions, because Mama always made biscuits and cornbread and everything.
So let's go back to the chicken thing. So that's a long process.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't understand these days how difficult it was just to prepare food. Back now, when was that? Would you say that was in the 40s?
Well, I was born in 35, and so it would be, in the 40s.
1940s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
People don't understand because things are so convenient this day. You can there's a grocery store on every corner. You can go buy whatever you want. A lot of people don't even cook at home these days. They people just eat out and that kind of thing. People don't know. A lot of people don't know how to cook. You know, I know when Cole was in high school, he had a lot of friends that used to love to come to our house because we would cook, and they wouldn't get that at home. But a lot of people have no idea how hard it was back in those days just to prepare a meal.
That's right.
And how long it took.
Right.
So like Grandma and Grandpa, like your mom and dad, they would get up at 4 in the morning? Get up at 4 in the morning, milk, and I guess while Grandpa was milking, Grandma was preparing food for breakfast.
Well, most of the time she was out there with him, and then she would come to the house a little early to prepare breakfast for them.
Yeah, yeah.
But
so you would kill your own pigs. Now, you told me one time, I can't remember, that you would use the bladder of something for a ball.
yes, that was one of my favorite toys. When they butchered the pigs, they were very careful to get the bladder of the hog out. And my dad would wash it and clean it and, everything. And then they would fill it with air. A pig's bladder is very strong. So they would fill it with air with a pump. And that was like a basketball.
Yeah.
Or not quite that large, but that was our favorite toy to play ball with.
My goodness. My goodness. So, Mom, when you were a kid and Christmas came around, did you get toys back then?
Very seldom. Mostly we would hang our stockings, and we each got an apple and an orange, and usually some nuts. And then Mom and Dad always tried to have some kind of little toy for us. I remember getting a yo-yo one year, and that was a toy that I got.
Were you excited?
Oh, of course. And we took such good care of the toys that we got, because we didn't get any more until the next Christmas, if we got any then.
Yeah.
But we never, I don't know, we just never thought about that. I don't know, I don't remember when I got my first doll, but I do remember getting a doll, and I had never had one before.
Yeah. Well, back then you didn't have social media.
No.
Y'all didn't have television when you were a kid?
No.
So you didn't know what the rest of the world was doing.
Well, we had a Sears catalog. That's where we would see toys and things that we would wish for. We call it a wish book.
Yeah. But you didn't know, you didn't know the difference between rich and poor and middle class, upper class, lower. You didn't know it because you couldn't see the rest of the world, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I just knew the way everybody that lived in the community that we lived in, they all lived like we did.
Yeah. Yeah. So you just worked hard. I mean, I remember when I would spend a couple of weeks of the summer at the farm, Grandma and Grandpa would work 12, 14 hours a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
They would
worked
milk in
very
the morning,
hard.
they would farm in the afternoon,
All day.
all day, and then they would milk in the evening.
Right.
And then Grandpa would get done about, what, 10 o'clock at night?
I don't know, but it was a long day
Yeah.
for all of them.
You know, one of my favorite memories is, as far as farm life, when I would stay down there in the summer, as part of the summer, is going to meet if he was cutting hay somewhere off the property, Grandma would take me with a can of tuna fish. And we'd go take a sleeve of crackers and tuna fish and go meet Grandpa, and that would be our lunch. Yeah. But it was a very hard life, yeah, and working in the fields but how many were in your school when you were in high school?
I don't remember how many were in high school. There were 18 that graduated in my class, graduating class, but in high school. But it was small, but I'd probably say maybe in the entire school we might have had 80 kids.
Yeah.
But my first 8 years of schooling was out in the little rural school there in Bonanza, which was just a two-room school building. One room had grades 1 through 5, and the other room the principal taught, and it was up through the 8th grade. And then after 8th grade, we had to catch a school bus and go to Emory for our schooling, and that's where I graduated from, was Emory High School.
Yeah.
So.
What was the? Did y'all ever see airplanes or?
Oh, airplanes, yeah. We saw airplanes, and that was, I can remember during World War II, you know, we had a radio, and so we could keep up with what was going on pretty much, and we even had a local radio station that was based there in Sulphur Springs, which was about 12 miles from our house. But I remember we were afraid of airplanes, though, because we would hear about the bombing and war that was going on. And I remember at night, if I heard an airplane go over, I was afraid I'd cover up my head and everything, you know, because I was afraid that we were going to be bombed.
Yeah. Now, back in the, do you remember World War I?
No.
Yeah.
But World War II, I was 6 years old when that war started. So, and I had 3 uncles that served in World War II. I remember a lot about that because we would get letters from them. One of my uncles served in Germany on the front line of Wright-Patman's division, which was the real bad part of the war. And so when he wrote home, their letters were censored, and a lot of what they would write was taken out. So when we'd get a letter, my grandma would get the letters, and she'd try to read them to us and try to figure out what the words were that had been censored. And so that was something I remember about the war. But it was bad as a kid just thinking about it, even though it was thousands of miles away where it was taking place.
Yeah.
But for my uncle that served in Germany on the front line like that, we didn't know if he would be able to come back or not. The other 2 uncles served in Australia, and I don't know much about, but they didn't have it like my Uncle Peb did.
Yeah. Mom, what was the first, you remember when Grandpa got his first automobile?
Yes, but I was trying to think last night. It was a pickup, and I don't remember, but I remember that's what we had in growing up, and I remember when he had that, there were four of us girls, and so Mom and Dad and us 4 girls all rode in the front seat of that pickup. So, but the first car that he had that was large enough for all of us to ride in was a 42 Dodge. That's what I learned to drive, sitting in my daddy's lap, that 42 Dodge.
I can't imagine going from a buggy pulled by a horse to an automobile. I just can't imagine the thrill of that.
Well, the first time I saw an automobile, I was walking down the road with some of my cousins, and I had never seen one before. And I don't know how old I was, but I was young. But we all were afraid of it. I mean, here came this thing down the road, you know, so part of us went to one side of the road and some of us to the other side. We were afraid of that automobile. I don't remember how old I was at that time.
Yeah. Living on a farm in East Texas, were there any scary moments that you can remember?
Well, one of the most scary ones that comes to my mind right now is I was riding a horse, and I took the horse down to the stock tank where we would take it for to water, you know. And so I remember I took the horse down there for Daddy, and of course he waded out into the pool, the stock tank, a little ways. But when he would bend down to get a drink, and I didn't have a saddle or anything. I was just on the bare back of the horse. When he would bend down, I'd slide down nearly all the way. I was screaming my head off, and my dad saw what was going on, and he came running, you know, and I didn't fall off, but that was one of my most scary moments. Is I was afraid I was going to fall head first into that stock tank.
Do you remember ever having a problem with snakes in the chicken house?
Well, we had problems with snakes, yes. Yeah, we had snakes. So.
Yeah.
My mother was very, very frightened of snakes.
Well, I'm frightened of them too.
Well, me too.
Yeah. So, what about television?
I was already grown, graduated from high school, married before my folks had a television. Mm-hmm. And I remember going back to visit and take you kids with me because we didn't have one at our house at that time.
Yeah.
And so it was just such a weird feeling to sit there at my parents' home,
Yeah.
and be able to see television pictures. I mean, it was all new. I didn't even understand what it was, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Even as an adult, it was all new, you know.
Yeah.
But we did not have a television growing up. We had that radio, and that was our entertainment. On Saturday nights, we'd gather around the radio and listen to the Grand Ole Opry. You know, I can hear Minnie Pearl right now. Howdy! I'm so glad to be here. So.
Mom, believe it or not, we got to close the show.
What?
Yeah, we got to close the show. We've been talking for 30 minutes.
Well, you know very little about me.
Oh, we're going to do another one. We're going to stay right here. We're going to let Terry close us out, and then we're going to come right back and do show number 2. Take us out, Terry.